What's up everyone, and welcome back to Shifting Gears. Today we'll be discussing the various game modes in Gears of War. This is just part 1 of the video, so be sure to check the descriptions for parts 2 and 3 as they become available. I'll also post the full video on Friday, so you can check it out there if you'd prefer. As always, I'll have my personal thoughts typed up in the document linked below, so now let's hop into the discussion. Alright, let's go ahead and hop in to introduce today's panel. We're just going to go around the room like we normally do. So I guess, Typo, we'll start with you.
Oh boy. I didn't want you to start with me, but okay. So hi, my name's John. People call me Typo. That actually helps out a whole lot because I work with way too many Johns currently. But yeah, Typographic, been around for a little while. Been playing Gears since Gears 1, but I was more of a Halo kid, so I really didn't start paying attention to Gears until kind of late Gears 2, sadly. But it's kind of to my benefit though, because then I got like all the Gears 3 like beta stuff in, and so I really like had a lot of fun during that scene. Favorite game type, definitely an FFA, which has only really been in one Gears game, but that's really my favorite game mode in any game. So that'd be nice to see future edition potentially.
Yep. All right, Chris, we'll go over to you now.
Hi everyone, my name is Chris. I go by Modded Talent on YouTube, Twitter, and I think those are the only social media handles I'm really on. I've been playing Gears since the first Gears game came out, so a long time, and I'm a very big execution player, so that's my bread and butter, but I do enjoy playing almost all of the different game types that have been in Gears.
All right, and I guess Dodger, we'll finish with you.
Yep. Kyle, fellow Blue Dodger, part of the Tac-Com crew, kind of. I don't know. I'm back now. I've been playing since December 2006, so just a month after the release of Gears 1. I was Assassination player, Guardian player, but I have to say, like right now, Dodgeball is my favorite game type of all time. So, yeah.
And I am, just like Dodger, started in December of 2006, and Dodgeball is my favorite game type.
And we're also part-time semi-professional Easter egg hunters.
Yes. Let's see. So I don't really have a big spiel to go through this time, like a big introduction thing. So really, I've got a list of all the game types that are currently in Gears 4. So we'll go through those, and then we'll go through some of the game types that have been in past games, and then we'll talk about some future game types. So let's hop in with the big one for esports right now, and that is Escalation. Have you guys played that much? I know, Chris, you play that a lot, probably, right? The competitive player.
I've played it enough, but it's one of the things where like the gripes I have with it aren't so much that it's based around hills. It's more just the players themselves, I guess, the ones that just get in there to quit out. Like they really make the whole experience pretty non-competitive because it's just no fun. Playing like a 2v5 or something like. Whenever you can actually have like two teams that are stacked, really caring and trying within the game mode, I think that's when it definitely plays its best. But that's really for any mode, though. It's no fun just playing players that just aren't on the same level. But then it's also no fun when it's just a complete blowout every time too. So.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with Typo in terms of people quitting out. That's one of the game types where just like it ruins you, it crushes you, kind of like King of the Hill. But that aside, even when players stay in. I think Escalation is a great game type, and clearly the Gears community likes it and people get into it. But, just as somebody who plays competitively online with a lot of my friends, it's a huge time commitment. Like running at least 20 to 40 minutes, I'd say, is a good kind of frame. And it's just a lot to commit to. So it's a great game type, but kind of itching for something that's competitive and maybe doesn't take as long, because I feel like Gears for me is about those bite-sized matches that you can kind of hop in for 10 minutes. So right. Good addition, but kind of hoping to see something else along the competitive lines. Yeah,
no, I agree. I think a lot of the feedback that I've heard from the community is that we kind of wish that it could be a little shorter. I mean, just for the sake that you're saying, like for me, I like the bite sizes of about 15 minutes, 20 minutes if things are going crazy. Like Halo used to have CTF matches that could last forever, but for the most part, they still capped out at like 30 minutes. Somebody would get a cap, and so it once it starts getting longer than that, like from a console esports perspective and viewers perspective, like it just doesn't seem to really work as well as those 10, 12, 15-minute games. And so you're right, it's like a huge time commitment on top of just getting the players that you want to play with, because if you go in like with even just two guys that are really good, you can find success, but as soon as it starts to not go your way, the players drop out, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, great, we just wasted 30 minutes of our time, we're going to take this L. It's not very fun.
Mm-hmm.
And that game type was developed around like that competitive, high level of play mindset.
Right.
And I mean, so it takes a lot of time. There's a lot of teamwork involved in it. Do you think that's kind of taken away from like the casual player experience? Like, have you seen
the cordial?
The cordials. Have you seen many like casual players go into escalation and actually enjoy it? I don't see that many people go in there unless they're like a dedicated like escalation player.
Yeah.
I'll play with viewers from time to time who aren't exactly in the competitive mindset as me with escalation, and I'm curious to know whether they enjoy it or not. But I will say I kind of get the sense that people who are more casual don't actually really understand how to properly play the game type, because there's actually a lot that goes into it. Like, I'm not saying that they're incapable of understanding or whatnot, but there's just so many different elements to juggle where something like CTF is kind of simple. It's like get their flag and defend your flag, but with 3 hills rotating, increase spawn timers and all the weapons,
it's complex mode.
Yeah, it's tough.
Defend your main hill, capture their main hill.
Yeah, like the thing I see a lot of casual players when they do try and mess with the mode, what I see them doing is they get like in a fight, and then there's just kind of not a lot of movement from them and like what they should be pushing next. Like it's very obvious that you need to go for the 3 cap, but a lot of times players are like, okay, I just clutched a 1v2 and I'm just going to kind of sit here now and not really like immediately start pushing their spawn and trying to put pressure on them as they're coming out of spawn and trying to push a 3 cap. Like
I see two groups. I see like the person who decides I'm just going to be a home hill player and they sit there and do that. But then I think what Dodger was getting at is it seems circular almost.
Hey, we got we just captured 2 hills, but it's still 5v5. Let's push their main hill. Yeah.
Right.
It's you get a kill. Let's go to this hill. Oh, they took our other one. Let's go to that. And it just
it's a lot of back and forth. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. But I mean, so that'd be something interesting to see, like in the comments below. When this goes up on YouTube, is if you are a more casual player, what are your views on escalation? If you don't play it, why don't you play it? Is there anything else that you guys have about escalation, or should we move on?
I mean, like for the game type itself, I have no problem, but just in the competitive scenery, I just don't like how it's the only game type. My preference is just that because, like you said, like escalation takes way too long. If a best of 3 or a best of 5, I think the last game should just be execution. Just kind of, I don't know, just to mix things up a bit and kind of have that sudden death type of feel.
Yeah, I do like the way the game moves from like a King of the Hill type start to the end or the later rounds are more execution based.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But yeah, it does take a while, and especially like at an esports event, you're just sitting there watching 20-minute matches forever. By the end of the event, you're just like dead, and it's hard to watch.
Well, it's kind of like a 2 schools of thought sort of thing. So like looking at Halo 3, we had a lot of different game modes, and the nice thing about that was you couldn't just say like, yeah, we're a Slayer team and we just outslay everybody and that's it, period. You can't touch us, and that's all of the deciding factor, and that's all that matters, like you could outslay. Like I've seen people win like 50-30 and like 50-27 and stuff like that, but then they come into like a respawn King of the Hill or an oddball and they just can't play objective well. They might overslay. Like really there's no sense in like when you overslay a team that you still lose the objective. Like that's always kind of been the mindset, is like, how do we outslay them but still lose? And so a lot of that comes down to the teamwork and making those like sacrificial, selfless plays and knowing when best to like throw the oddball off the map and other stuff that can help reset and like benefit your team. All that comes into like a deeper thought of play, and so it's like you have to be skilled at multiple things, and so you have to be just a really well-versed team across multiple game modes to really like crown yourself a champion at the end of the weekend. And so like when we come into the mindset of like Gears, it starts to look a lot more like a League of Legends. And not to like knock on that community or anything, because I mean, it's obviously a tried and true model and it's adored by millions of people across the globe. It's just like, there's one map, there's one mode, and the cool thing about that is the fact of like how many different champions that you can run and like the different strategies that you can meld from that. But it doesn't really work as it starts to translate over to like escalation, and we have like this 40-minute long game type where it's still just shooting and killing, which is still like really basic, and so you have to like start to add different incentives to the map, like, oh, we can place an instant here and that's going to change everything up, sort of deal. And it doesn't really seem to play that way. It's almost like more times people would put a really powerful weapon on the map, and then that starts to just shift a fight from like one area of the map to the other, which then we rotate so quickly in Gears, like it still plays so fast that it kind of doesn't really matter. And or we just block it off and it's just like, all right, well now we're basically playing Slayer because I don't have anything placed on the map, and now it just comes down to who can out shotgun me. And so it's I don't know, it's not as deep as it could be, but at the same time it's like extremely complex. And so I think like as a casual player looking at it, it's like, oh hey, I kind of enjoy what I'm seeing, but I don't really fully understand like everything that's going on, and so I'm gonna try it with a friend. Oh, I got a group of quitters, I'm just not gonna play this anymore. And so that kind of negates all the, hey, let's make these players come play our mode and then hopefully they'll aspire to be pros, because it's just they're asking for a lot.
Yeah.
So if they're good, go ahead.
I was gonna say, also in the esports thing, you only see like 4 maps really played all the time.
Yeah.
That gets
Foundation, Dam, Forge, sometimes
Lift.
Yeah.
So if they were to bring escalation into Gears 5, what do you think should change? It sounds like we're all saying the score limit or the time the game takes. Is there anything else?
Yeah, I was thinking about this too, because I definitely think they should keep escalation. It definitely has a place in the game. But because of it being such a huge time commitment, in my head, for some reason, I think that winning an execution game, it would be less valuable compared to an escalation game, because it's just like so much longer. And I don't know exactly if that's the only reason I think that way. So I don't know. I think maybe altering the amount of rounds it takes, because potentially going to around, 13 or something. That's kind of crazy. So if they could just figure out a way to reduce the amount of rounds, that'd make it a lot more bearable, and then you could add in those other game types to force teams to show you really how dynamic they can be.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think limiting or decreasing the amount of rounds would help it a whole lot. Just because it's not so much of an ask for a casual player at home. Like, yeah, you have the potential to sit here for an hour. It's like, or I could play like 5 games of King of the Hill and, or whatever the mode may be. Like, it's one of those things where like maybe before you are in a different state of life, where like you have kids and you have like a full-time job and all those other things, like you have a lot of time to play games. But for me, like I'm in a situation where I don't have a lot of time to play games, and so the last thing I want to do when I hop on Gears is sit down for an hour and only play one match. I want like a couple warm-up matches. I want to get through at least a few things where I can be like, yeah, I dropped like 3 30, 40 kill games tonight. That was kind of fun. Instead of like, yeah, I played one match and then we lost in the end because everybody quit.
Yep.
Can you change the round times in custom? Because I never played escalation in custom.
I don't think you can. I know the Coalition tried doing I think it was core tuning first to 5 event, and something went wrong with it. They had to revert it back to its normal settings. They said they're going to try it again in the future, I think. But it's something it sounds like they're toying with to try to bring people in.
Yeah, that's good.
Let's see. Moving on to the other side of competitive play, we've got the classic execution, and let's throw Warzone into this bucket as well. They're pretty much the same thing.
Whoa.
All right, let's start right off the bat. Should Warzone return in future titles?
Ooh, who wants to go first on this? Jeez.
I'll say
sure. Kill it, please. Kill it with fire.
Yeah, kill it.
I don't think it really has a purpose, because essentially Warzone is execution, but you can kill people from really far on the map. And so it's like, oh, hey, this got replaced by TDM. Cool, let's just like negate this now. And so I don't think there's a reason for it to really exist anymore, especially since the fact that TDM is now in the game. So yeah, if you ask me, like, I don't know why it's still in our game at all.
I played Warzone in Gears 1 because I got tired of people down boosting in Gears 1 for score. That's why I played Warzone. But now that that's not a problem anymore, I I've played like 5 matches of Warzone, and that was to get the achievement when the game first launched. Like,
Yeah.
and the player
Yeah.
population shows that as well. People don't care about it. It probably should not be returning.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, I think we need to focus on consolidating playlists, and obviously Warzone and Execution are so similar, but Execution is more popular, and kind of like how they removed Arms Race. If it's just not there, I don't see the sense in creating more divisions in terms of player population. So yeah, I think Warzone, it was in the first gears, but its time is up, and I think we can get rid of it, and no one's gonna be too upset.
So, Dodger, agree, disagree?
I mean, Typo. No, I agree. Typo basically said it. TDM does take the role of Warzone basically, and it's more popular. Execution was more popular, so Warzone still has a special place in my heart. But it's not fun just to play with bots.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right. So with that one out of the way, let's talk about that execution game mode. So, Chris, I think this is your go-to mode, right?
Yeah. So I know that everyone's major complaint is that there's no objective to play towards, and that sometimes that can lead to stalemates, and it's entirely true. I think that's something to consider in terms of if it's going to be in the competitive circle, because I don't think from a spectator's point of view it's smart to put a game type where things can just get stalematey and then you have the commentators talking about random things. But I still think it's a really fun game type. It's been a staple of Gears, and I think it's going to probably be in the next one, and I hope it stays. I think that I leave Execution as is, but focus more on, like you're saying, a bomb game type or something for the competitive sphere. So, yeah, it has its flaws, but leave it in there for all the hardcore people who have had it since the beginning.
Yeah.
Are you saying that you don't
enjoy
like Fallout or Blaze, just talking about random things?
Oh, no, I do. On the contrary, I just feel so terrible for them because they have to come up with 10 minutes of just random dialogue because people are just waiting for the last 30 seconds to rush in Execution. But they're great.
I agree. I definitely think Execution should be in the next game, but I disagree with the fact that it shouldn't change. I don't think you would need a big change, but I think it would be for the better. If any of you guys have played Destiny or Trials of the Osiris within Destiny, the kind of quote-unquote competitive mode, it's essentially Execution, man. You have rounds, you slay out the other team, and that's it. I mean, the nice thing about it is whenever it gets to a certain point in the map, a neutral objective will appear, and you can cap that objective or you can kill somebody as they're trying to take the objective, and then that, you move on to your next round. It decides a winner. It's very rare that you get a stalemate necessarily or a tie within that, but it can happen, but it's extremely rare. Not like in the sense that we see within Gears, especially like in Gears 3 competitive, where you put money on the line. Players start to play very differently because it's like one kill can decide the fate of X amount of money between first and second, and so all of a sudden nobody wants to be that guy that dies in the now it's a snowball effect of like a 4v3, and so essentially if you can at least make it to where the game mode still has that high intensity of play. We love to see the strategy that goes between the rotating around the map and players executing something for a particular weapon, like, oh, we're going to grab torque and then we're going to rotate over to here. I think it's a very distinct style of game mode that I would love to see return in competitive play. It needs to be changed up so that it can actually be tournament viable.
Yeah. So just so I understand the distinction, because I don't actually play too much Destiny. Are you saying, let's say you're in an execution round and after 2 minutes some sort of objective pops up on the map,
a King of the Hill ring will spawn in the middle of the map after a certain time, and
whoever caps it wins.
And is it supposed to be randomly placed on the map?
No, it's just central, gridlock boom shot every time.
It's always central.
So Foundation would probably be like that pillar between boom shot and torque. Or boom shot.
Maybe this is just me being resistant because I've had it for so long, and I'm open to trying that in a different game type. But I can't help but feel that if you do something like that, then you might just have kind of repetitive strategies that are always focused around, where that hill spawns. That's predetermined every time.
And that's a good point. But I mean, at the same time, you don't really want to have it random central locations.
Exactly, because it's symmetrical maps.
Yeah, I mean, look at the correlation with a random hill spawn and how you get hill shafted essentially in PUBG. You know, like you can be in a great position and all of a
Fortnite.
sudden the hill rotates. Now you're in a bad position while you have to go
That's
to because
right.
it's random. And so if you always know where it is, then at least you're like, okay, well, I'm now forcing a 1v1 fight with this guy. I can't sit back. He's just going to cap it. But at the same time, you don't necessarily have to push the hill. Like if you have a boom or you have something like a long shot, like you can let them attempt to cap the hill, or you can still take them out. You know, like there's still multiple ways in which it can play out. But I think the fact that ultimately it's just going to come down to, well, there's 20 seconds on the clock. Neither of these guys want to push each other because money's on the line. So we're just going to sit here and watch paint dry. Like I would much rather not watch paint dry.
No, I take your point, but that's why I was saying to exclude execution from the pro circuit. I'd be open to trying the game type, but I still just think it would need to be tested because I do see the potential for the same kind of repetitive plays and the some parts of the map becoming obsolete just because the hill is never around there. So open to trying it. It's a good suggestion. Execution is flawed. There's no question.
The big thing I liked about execution, watching that like on the competitive level in Gears 3, was that there were so many rounds and all the teams had various strats out the door. So it was a lot of seeing those strats right away, as opposed to Escalation is right now they have a strat they set up and then they still have their strats and how they want to rotate and stuff, but it's a lot less obvious from the viewer's perspective. So I like seeing all of those strats in execution, and I would somewhat worry about what Chris is bringing up is if you know that ring is going to be at a certain spot, that's going to influence a lot of the strats, and they're going to want to focus on making sure that they can set up in a way that if it does get to a stalemate, they can have position for it.
But like one of those strats, unfortunately, is all right. 3 of us are going to push this fight 3v4, and you run the other way because in the event this doesn't work out for us in this push, we still want you to be alive so you can still make the round.
Yeah.
And so like anytime you have to essentially have that strat, there's an obvious like this is flawed for a reason, and that essentially is why it's not played, right?
And well, one thing about Destiny 2 is I think one of the reasons it works really well there is there's no weapons. At least I haven't played Destiny 2, but Destiny 1 there's no weapons on the map. So all of your map positioning is based around what you think the best parts of the map are. If you know there's going to be a ring, you can try and position for that. That ring isn't taking you away from going after a boom. Maybe if they did something in Gears 3, they would say, okay, we'll put a neutral ring after 2 minutes, but it's going to be on the opposite side of the map as boom. So you can either try and get that good map positioning right off the start, or you can push boom and try to get those kills.
Yeah,
it's also a lot faster in Destiny. You can move around the map. I mean, at least it's a Titan. You can move a lot faster.
Yeah, well, it's because of the fact that we can actually jump over pieces of the map that we're walled off to within Gears. So
I'd definitely be interested to see how that goes, though.
Yeah.
And I think that's also something that, I mean, if you go online and you talk to people about what would you like to see change in execution, it's pretty universal that that's one of the things that comes up. Let's see. Let's move on from those two and talk about TDM for a bit. The game type, some people say, like, killed Gears. Other people say it saved Gears. People say it killed it because it brought, like, a ton of people over to TDM, and it's taking away from all the other game types.
Mr. Steal Your Girl. Yep.
But, I mean, at the same time, I don't play it that much. I like Dodgeball, but, I mean, I love playing TDM. It's a lot of fun. But it has its downsides, especially with the spawn camping issues. I think we can all agree it's going to return in future titles. Are there any changes you guys would like to see to it?
Well, I guess you alluded to it. Just a better spawning system. You know, it doesn't have to be completely chaotic, but just some options, because spawn camping and spawn trapping does become an option, and it literally can get to the point where the other team has 18 spawns left and you're down to 3 or 4, and you're just thinking, well, should that be possible? But I think TDM is a great game type. I love at the end how, you know, you get your own life, so your teammates, you know, they can eat up all the lives except for that one, and you kind of have that Gears feel. So other than spawns changing, I think it's a pretty basic game type, and they've done well with it.
Yeah, like, so Typo, you're big on Halo, so I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts on this. I really like Gears, like, this is how many lives you have and you run out of lives, as opposed to
Right.
what Judgment did or what Halo does, where it's first team to get this many kills. What
Yeah.
do you prefer? Do you think one is better for Gears?
I think the style in which they do for Gears is fine. You're right. It is a swap. We're counting up and now we're counting down. I think that's maybe a lot of people's initial frustration that goes away too after 3-4 games of getting used to it. They're like, oh, okay, it just essentially turns into like execution. I think that's fine, and I think it's very Gears-y,
Yeah.
But I don't really have an issue with that. I do definitely agree that the major issue is the spawns and just the dedicated areas in which we spawn. They're just so obvious. Like, yep, one team spawns here every round, one team spawns there. Oh, you flipped them, and so there's not a lot of like median. You can spawn mid map, you can spawn quarter up from your initial. Like, there's just not a lot of extra areas in which we can spawn, and I think that kind of kills it because then of course the camping comes into it, and then that's essentially like why we have such a crazy amount of invincibility off of spawn. I mean, it's insane. Like in Gears 3, we could push out of checkout like all the way practically to mid map or like to that first box before your spawn ability would go away. And it's like I could be just peppering somebody like full speed, just runs right at me, and I just get chunked because they have invincibility the entire time, and that's insane. Because like coming from Halo, like you don't get that. As soon as you spawn, if you're getting spawn trapped, your goal is to learn how to shoot out of it. Like that's just part of learning the game and being a better player and essentially learning how to award yourself out of a bad situation. And so you just have to deal with it. Like if you come off a 10-second respawn, you spawn and then you get sniped, like guess what, you're on 10-second respawn again, and then that leads to the exciting elements of like, okay, if we're on the pit, I just got wave killed again, now they're pulling our flag, how are we going to retake this flag? And so a lot of communication and like if you were to hear like a lot of the comms from players during those moments, like it's really cool to see how frantic they get and how just they either fall apart or like they're really calm in the situation and they can work together to be like, okay, this sucks, they pulled our flag, but like we can run this route and we can still make a way to maybe stop this pull and all this stuff. It's like I don't know, I feel like we're missing a lot of that depth because of the fact that we have such a crazy limitation on like where our players spawn and how long that spawn influence is. So
Yeah. Dodger, anything to add on TDM?
No, just keeping it like the counting down part. I mean,
I think that's very
just-
Gears-ish, having those clutch moments, the
Yeah.
clutch factor in there.
Gears
and for the
3
record,
dri-
I don't
Gears 3
think TDM killed anything.
No.
I think it definitely added to the game.
I would
Yeah, I
agree.
agree.
Yep.
Yep.
Let's see. One of the most popular game modes, it seems right now, is King of the Hill. So let's throw King of the Hill and all of its variants. So Blitz, Gears 1, Gears 2, Gears 3 style King of the Hill all together.